Welcome to the 101 Carpinteria to Santa Barbara virtual Soundwall voting meeting. This meeting is presented by Caltrans in cooperation with Santa Barbara County Association of Governments, or SBCAG. This meeting is for two proposed sound walls along southbound Highway 101 between Butterfly Lane and Olive Mill Road. We appreciate your interest and participation in this Soundwall voting process and welcome each of you. Due to the CDC guidelines, this virtual presentation has been prepared instead of an in-person public outreach meeting and will provide the same information as a standard in-person meeting. In addition, an option to vote online has been provided along with a mail ballot. Details on how to submit your vote will be shared later in this presentation. For additional project information, including the project schedule and construction information, please visit www.sbroads.com. In accordance with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, Caltrans will make every effort to ensure non-discrimination in all of its programs and activities, and that services and benefits are fairly distributed to all people. In addition, Caltrans will facilitate meaningful participation in the transportation planning process in a non-discriminatory manner. Caltrans Title VI policies and a voluntary survey are found on the Caltrans project website. This Soundwall voting meeting has four primary goals. 1. To inform the affected property owners of the Highway 101 Carpinteria to Santa Barbara project status. 2. To describe how Soundwall locations are determined. 3. To allow affected property owners to ask questions about the Soundwall. And 4. To allow affected property owners to make an informed vote before the May 7th voting deadline. There are two ways to submit your vote. You may vote online using the SurveyMonkey link at www.surveymonkey.com/r/soundwalls or return the provided ballot by postal service. Submitted votes must include the property owner's name and street address of the affected property. This is to ensure that only one vote will be counted for each affected property. Note that the Soundwall will only be considered if greater than 50% of the affected property owners vote yes. I will now briefly describe project information and the status of the Highway 101 Carpinteria to Santa Barbara project. Caltrans is adding one high occupancy vehicle lane, or HOV lane, in each direction on US 101 within the project limits. The project begins at Baylord Avenue in Carpinteria and ends at Sycamore Creek in Santa Barbara. The project is about 11 miles in length. The project is divided into 5 segments. Segments A and C are currently under construction. Segment B will begin construction by the summer of 2021. Segments D and E are scheduled to continue final design and permitting through 2021. Right-of-way certification is scheduled in 2022, and construction would begin by 2023. Segments D and E, the last two segments of the project, start at Romero Creek in Montecito and end near Sycamore Creek in Santa Barbara. There are a total of 6 proposed sound walls. The location of the proposed sound walls affecting your property, as identified by the red arrows, are part of Segment E along southbound 101 between Butterfly Lane and Olive Mill Road. I will now describe how sound wall locations are determined. Sound wall locations are determined by following a 7-step process which includes identifying sensitive receptors, measuring existing noise levels, predicting future traffic noise levels, identifying traffic noise impacts, considering noise abatement, determining reasonableness, and making a final sound wall determination. Caltrans has completed steps 1 through 5 and is currently completing step 6, which is the process for determining reasonableness for sound walls. Step 6 has 2 phases. In Phase 1, sound wall locations and dimensions were studied, along with engineering estimates, acoustic feasibility, and environmental effects. Recommendations were incorporated into the environmental document for public review. In Phase 2, input from affected property owners will be considered through the Soundwall voting process. Your participation in Soundwall voting is an important part of determining the reasonableness of the Soundwall affecting your property. A reasonableness decision will be made by Caltrans considering the recommendations found in Phase 1, along with input from the affected property owners in Phase 2. The results of the Soundwall voting and input from the property owners will be taken into full consideration. However, final approval of Soundwalls will depend on the local coastal development permitting process. I will now provide Soundwall information for the two Soundwalls affecting your property, S535 and S549. These details were provided in the mail brochures you received along with the voting ballot. Soundwalls are constructed to lessen traffic noise impacts by blocking sound waves toward potential receptors. Soundwall height recommendations were determined in the traffic noise study and would be built to current engineering standards, which require that soundwalls must reduce noise by at least 5 decibels. To be sensitive to the context, Caltrans will design soundwalls that incorporate the character and aesthetics of their locations while also reducing sound transmission. Some aspects of soundwalls that property owners may consider when submitting their votes include the following. There is the potential of sunlight being blocked by the soundwall in certain areas at various times of the day. Removal of vegetation may be required during construction if it is located at the proposed soundwall footprint. Aesthetic treatments will be implemented, including texture and planting to blend in with the local setting, reflect community values, and discourage graffiti. Soundwall construction activities may create dust, noise, vibration, or temporary fencing that may temporarily affect adjacent properties. If a proposed soundwall is within a floodplain, it will include small flood passage openings for drainage. The proposed S535 soundwall is along the southbound side of the US 101 between the Olive Mill off-ramp and Olive Mill Road and is shown as the solid orange line. The length of the wall would be about 525 feet and is inside the Caltrans right-of-way. The properties located within the area of the yellow dotted line are the affected properties. During the voting process, only the affected property owners within the yellow dotted line would be eligible to vote on the S535 soundwall. The soundwall will only be considered if greater than 50% of these property owners vote yes. Here is a cross-section of the proposed S535 soundwall as it relates to the southbound US 101 and the affected properties. The wall will be about 12 feet tall. The proposed S549 soundwall is along the southbound US 101 and the Olive Mill off-ramp and is shown as the solid orange line. The wall is about 1,770 feet in length and is inside the Caltrans right-of-way. The properties located within the area of the yellow dotted line are the affected properties. During the voting process, only the affected property owners within this area would be eligible to vote on the S549 soundwall. The soundwall will only be considered if greater than 50% of these property owners vote yes. Here is a cross-section of the proposed S549 soundwall as it relates to the southbound US 101, the railroad, and the affected properties. The wall would be about 10 feet tall. Please submit your soundwall vote by one of the two provided methods. Vote online at www.surveymonkey.com/r/soundwalls or return the provided mail ballot by the voting deadline of May 7th. Final soundwall approval will be granted through the Coastal Development Permit. If you still have questions regarding this soundwall, please contact Caltrans by voicemail, email, or postal service to the attention of Jason Wilkinson, Environmental Branch Chief. Thank you for attending the 101 Carpinteria to Santa Barbara virtual soundwall voting meeting. We look forward to receiving your vote.